Hello everyone. Today we're going to be reviewing this pen, which is the Karas Penco Vertex 12. Karas Penco is, well, originally Karas Customs, I think they've changed their name now, is an American pen manufacturer based in Mesa, Arizona. They've been making machined metal pens for a good while now and recently branched out into acrylic-based pens a few years ago. And they launched their Vertex model, which is this model. I believe in 2018 at the DC and San Francisco pen shows, and I originally got one then, and then I sold it, and then they came out with this special edition, which is the Vertex 12. Now, the Vertex 12 was made to celebrate their 12th anniversary, and it's in a beautiful material manufactured by Jonathan Brooks of Carolina Pen Co., who you'll recognize if you watched my review on the Leonardo. And this is a sort of revival of the Vertex model because when they originally released it, they did a limited release and then it lay dormant for a few years, and then they brought it back and are now doing periodic limited edition releases and some regularly in stock models too. It comes in a very fancy little metal machined case, which unfortunately I can't show you right now because I don't have one on me in person, but there's a picture right there. That's what the case looks like. But yeah, let's look at the details of this pen. So the Vertex is a slip cap model, and under that cap you will find a Bach number 6 steel nib. Well, at least this one's steel. You can also get it in titanium with a Karas imprint right there that they do themselves. It's laser engraved, and this is a broad nib, the one that I have, and it has a plastic feed. Now I tend to find that Bach steel nibs are a little mushy, I would say. Flexy probably isn't the right word for it. It's just got a little more give than something like a Jowo steel nib, which I suppose is to your preference, might be not to your preference. Personally, I don't really like it as much. I think it would be cool if these had Jowo nibs, but the Bach nibs work perfectly fine. Now that being said, this broad nib is very smooth, as you'll see. It does have a little bit of a baby's bottom problem, but it still manages to be a pretty good writing experience nonetheless. Now as for the body, it's completely acrylic, so it's quite light, and it has a long sloped grip section with a little flare out at the end, which I find is pretty good. Whatever grip you really use, it works no matter what. If you have a sort of traditional grip, which I got to give them credit for, because some grips are unusual and still work, and some look standard and don't work. But this is a pretty standard grip that I find works really well. It's very similar to the grip on an Aurora Optima or an Aurora 88 if you have used those before. It is a cartridge converter pen, and you can see the very end of the cartridge right there in that little part. Let's see if I can get any ink in there. Yeah, you can barely see it. You can just barely see the end. It's like it's in this part. This part's the little metal bit at the end. So yeah, you can see it's a somewhat functional ink window. I think it's better than nothing, but it's just a nice added feature, not really something that does that much good, because it's just super easy to unscrew it and then look at whatever amount of ink you have left. But yeah, as you saw, this is a cartridge converter. It comes with a Schmidt converter, which is great. I mean, I have zero complaints about that. It works really just like any other cartridge converter pen, which is really something I don't have any complaints about. While usually I'm more partial to something like a piston filler or a vacuum filler, I cannot deny the practicality of cartridge converters. So I guess it does get some points in that area. As for any unique features, besides that little ink window, there's really nothing, which isn't a problem. It's a fairly standard pen, tapered down towards the end, and on the cap, the finial is a little indent, so it's like a concave bowl. So it's a stylistically pretty pleasing pen, I do have to say. whenever they're all lined up in a row on like a seller's table or something like that. It does look pretty nice. And then of course you have undoubtedly noticed that beautiful material. I don't know if this material has a name. I don't remember it being listed. I think it was made especially for this pen, but the shimmering red and gray swirls in that black does look really nice. Another absolute triumph from Jonathan Brooks. But yeah, it does feel, like I said, it does feel rather light in the hand, which you may think would lead to it not really feeling that very high quality, but it's polished superbly and machined quite precisely as well. So you really do feel the quality when you hold it in the hand. And I have to say, it gets no marks off there. It's definitely a very high quality pen, especially for the price. And I think it's a great option in that mid-range of custom acrylic pens in like the $150, $200 range, along with Leonardo's and Monograppa Elmos and pretty like everything in that range. It competes right with it, I would say. I would say one of my few complaints is the snap cap. There's nothing in the cap that sort of gets rid of the vacuum that happens when you pull it out. So the feed does get quite saturated if you cap it and uncap it a couple of times in a short time span. As well as that, let me see if I can show you. You can see that O-ring in there. It looks like a triangle because it's squished into the cap at some parts. But it's not. It doesn't seem like it's fully secured or something, because when it's just on the cap, it's at some angles it can shake a little bit and isn't entirely secure. It hasn't led to any problems drying out or anything, but I would say that's really the only thing that is a detriment to this pen is the snap cap, because it both saturates the feed and sometimes will get it to burp a little bit, and the fact that it's not super secure. Whether it's satisfying or not to have that snap is up to you. Personally, oh goodness, it's on there. Personally, I do prefer screw caps. I think snap-on caps can be good when they're designed perfectly, but I think maybe they could have a few improvements on this design, and then it would be working a little better. Let me see if I can capture that clicking for you. So if I'm holding the pen just like this, let me see, that's too close. If I'm holding the pen just like this, you'll see it can move when it's completely secured on. So it's got a little bit of wiggle room right there. But yeah, it's good to use, it writes well, it's fun to use, the material is really nice. And it's definitely practical with that cartridge converter. And of course, while I might not prefer the Bach nib, I certainly have no major complaints with how it writes. You'll see in the writing sample about that as well. But I mentioned the sort of medium size that it has, so let's go check that out in the size comparison. So here we have the size comparison. This is the Keras Penco Vertex, next to a new acquisition, a Parker Vacuumatic Shadow Wave, I believe is what it's called, an Aurora Optima, and a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. So as you can see, it's not a small pen. I would probably classify the Optima as a small pen when it's capped, and the Momento Zero Grande as a large pen, so it's about in the middle. I would say it's medium-ish. You'll see in the uncapped. Yeah, it's a medium-sized pen. It fits well in the hand, no complaints. It's light, so if you normally like smaller pens, I would say this is good for you, and it's not so small that if you're a fan of bigger pens, that it'll be a hindrance. Okay, now for the writing sample, we have, yeah, as you can see, it's got a little baby's bottom problem. It's nothing huge, but it does pop up every once in a while. The Keras pen, that's not, it's the Keras Pen Co. Vertex 12. It is a broad nib. Bach number 6. It's pretty smooth, fairly smooth. The baby's bottom pops up every once in a while, but it's not so much of a problem that I can't actually write with it. It's just once every paragraph or so. The ink is Robert Oster Storqueza Olive. You can see the baby's bottom also happened right there just because it also happens when you let it rest for maybe 20 seconds or so, and then it stops writing. As for wetness, it's definitely a wet nib. I will definitely not knock it there. And then as for some flexibility, it's a standard box steel nib. It's not too flexible, just a little mushy. But yeah, if you've ever had a pen with a box nib before, you definitely know what it feels like. Over the lazy dog. So yeah, that is how this pen writes. Definitely not perfect. I think I'll give this one a tune-up when I have the chance, but still a fun writing experience nonetheless. But yeah, that is the Karas Penco Vertex 12. I would say a really nice, really solid pen. If you're interested in it, I would absolutely recommend it. I wouldn't say there's anything that speaks out to me that would tell me, like, you have to go buy this now. In terms of the price range it competes at, I think it does a very good job. I think it's a fantastic option if you're looking for a snap cap, medium-sized, light, good-looking acrylic pen. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was both entertaining and informative. And if you really enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like and subscribe, because I'm hopefully going to release a new review just about every week. And if you saw anything that you found interesting, feel free to comment about it below. I'm always happy to talk. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. Bye.